Welcome to the Victorian Yard Utility and Farm Dog Association's Judges Training video series. In this presentation, Ian O'Connell runs through how he prepares to judge an event. We have separated Ian's presentation into 3 videos.
First section is about before the event, so whether that's the weeks leading up to it, the day leading up to it, the hours leading up to it, whatever. So that's the first section. The second section is upon arrival, once you arrive at the trial, what we do, and the third section is actually giving a judge's briefing. Now, all this is my opinion only, and as Ian said, everyone's got their own way of doing things. I don't even think about, am I a good judge or am I not a good judge? I just do it to the best of my ability. I do it how I think it should be done, and I let my peers decide whether it was done properly or not. And I guess if you get asked to do another trial somewhere, they obviously think it was all right. So that's about the only feedback you will get as a judge. But there is, it's a bit like raising children or training a dog, really. There's a million ways of doing it, and not all of them are wrong. So this is just what I do. Now, I think there is 2 sorts of people when it comes to doing anything in life, really. There's those that plan and those that wing it. I'm from the first side. I like to plan everything. I'm just my genetics, my DNA, I guess. I plan my life, and I always have. And when I'm going judging, it's no different. So I'm, as Rod said, but I'm probably a little bit over the top. I want to prepare everything I do. So if you're a winger, well, you might take this on board, but you probably won't do it. You'll keep winging it because it's your DNA. But anyway, it takes all kinds to make the world go round. But I am from the first group. So I do plan. If I get asked, I got asked to do this, I planned it. I'll get asked to do a trial, I'll plan it. So before the event, this is what I would do, and this is what I would encourage you to do if you get asked to trial or want to have a go at trialing. The first thing is read the rules. Read the rules, know the rules, and read the rules again. Victoria is very fortunate to have, I've judged in other states, and the first thing I do if I get asked to judge a championship interstate, or judge a trial interstate, is I want a copy of their rules, because every state's got different rules. Victoria is way in front of any other state that I've judged in. They're a great set of rules. There's been a lot of good work done on these. So that's the first thing, know the rules. Now, a lot in these rules is not relevant to you when you go judging. In fact, most of it isn't. A lot of it's about judging, committees, how long, just a lot of stuff's not relevant to you when you're judging. So what I do, and you can see these are my rules from home, I've gone through, this would have been from trials I've done, and I highlight anything that's going to be, any rule that is relevant to me while I'm judging. And they are the ones I concentrate on and totally disregard all the other stuff in here. So there's about 3 pages in amongst the 15 that you need to be familiar with. So that's definitely the first thing. So highlight the rules that you are relevant to your task. Now get your mindset right, and it's not a difficult thing to judge a trial. Well, this is all my opinion, as I said before, but don't think, oh God, it's complicated, how am I ever going to do it? It isn't complicated. And don't talk yourself into it being complicated, and don't make it complicated. Keep it simple, not for the handler's sake, for your sake. So the simpler you can keep it, the easier it is for you to do a good job. But instill in your mind that and Ian spoke quite a bit about this, a perfect run is a perfect score. So you start with 100 when you go out there. So what is perfection? You get that in your mind beforehand. So you've got to be able to pay perfection. So any deviation from perfection will cost points. So get that in your head. So don't think, oh God, that wasn't quite right, but don't, take points, all right? Take points every time something is not perfect, because you've got to be able to reward the person that is perfect. That's what you've got to have in your head right from before you begin. The next thing is I judge by watching the stock. The stock indicate to me what if the dog's doing a good job. I know people will look at a dog and they'll think, oh, he told it to sit and it didn't. Or it's barking then and it doesn't need to. Or it's running around with its nose on the ground. I could not care less. It's what the stock, if I've asked what I want the stock to do, and if the stock are doing that, it's all good. I do not play God trying to judge whether a dog's good or not. The stock will tell me whether the dog's doing a good job. That's to keep it simple. If you start playing God and think that was bad work by that dog, even though the stock went in the right direction, you're gonna stuff yourself up. One, you'll get lost, but also the person that you're judging won't have a clue why points are coming off. So keep it very simple. Just look for perfection in your stock, and that's all there is to it. Apart from the rules that are obvious, like tail turning and peeling on the course and jumping out and all that stuff, but that's in the rules. The next thing to get in your head is to act on your directives. So what I mean by that is if you get up at your judge's talk, you know, you're thinking about what you're going to say at the judge's talk, and you're thinking about that not when you get out on the ground, you're thinking about that well beforehand, and you're going to say, you know, bad bites and you'll be disqualified. If a dog chases sheep into a fence and, you know, smashes the sheep into a fence, you will be disqualified. Well, have in your head that as soon as it happens, that's it, right? Don't think, oh, it's okay. It isn't okay. You've said it, you act on it. I made a mistake. I judged the Australian at Bendigo. I made a mistake, and it's haunted me ever since. I think it was in the John Lady actually gave the talk, but a sheep hit the fence fairly hard. I don't know whose dog it was, I'm likely, and I don't care whose dog. All I look at is the stock. A sheep hit the fence very hard out in the paddock. Now the dog didn't actually chase it into the fence, but it couldn't stop it, and it hit the fence very hard. And I didn't disqualify it. I certainly took points off, but I didn't disqualify it because to me the dog didn't do it, even though the dog was in the vicinity. And he got them back together and he did it again, and I still didn't disqualify it, and I have not forgiven myself for that. Anyway, that's beside the point, but I'm just saying act on your directives. If you say stuff like no biting and all that, you act on it. Don't be intimidated by who might, you know, what they might think of you. Bloody act on it. Make notes of everything you want the handlers to do that isn't in the rules. Now, when you get out there to give your judges talk, you shouldn't have to say a lot because most things are covered in the rules, and we've got to presume that the handlers have read the rules. But we do go on about saying things like walk in straight lines, clear the arc of your gate, and all this in our judges talk. There's no need to because it is in the rules. So, but there is some things that we will be pointing that aren't in the rules. Like there is nothing in the rules about not running. There is nothing in the rules about saying a dog can load a race from outside. So if you're going to point any of that, make sure you stipulate in your judge's talk things that you're going to be pointing that aren't in the rules. And write them down. And thing, you know, I've just put here, like if you're going to point someone if you see that they're doing gate catches up exceptionally tight, if you're going to point that, well, you say it in the rules because it's not in the rules. Think of everything that could happen and write down what action you will take. So just visualise the trial. Now this is before you're probably there, but if you just think about, right, it's a trial, what could go wrong? What could happen? Because you need a plan of attack when something does happen, and you need to be decisive and make a decision instantly. And some of the things like, what are you going to do if a sheep jumps out? What are you going to do with biting? What are you going to do if you've got blood coming out of a sheep somewhere? What are you going to do if the dog jumps out and jumps back in? What are you going to do if you're doing an encourager or novice trial and the handler is bogged down? What are you going to do? What are you going to do if another dog comes onto the course? What are you going to do if the yards fall over? What are you going to do if a sheep smashes into the gate at the back of the draft and lets the mob out again? What's your call on that? Because you'll see that the handler will turn straight around and look at you. And you've got to have something ready for him. I remember Travis when we did the Australian up at Bendigo, I think it was in the final, and Travis had a sheep jump out. Well, I was talking to Travis before he even realised that sheep had gone out. I said, the clock's still running, you're still being judged, you've got to get that sheep back in. I said, because I had thought about what will I do if a sheep jumps out. Another one that I see is handlers heading in the wrong direction. So you've been asked to judge at a trial and you're thinking about what you're going to do there. Visualise what you're going to do if you give your judges talk, and you'll do your pickup, and then you'll do load the drench race, and then you'll draft some, and the handler's out there and he starts doing things back to front. What are you going to do? You've got to have a plan in mind. Now, some people will say, in fact Norm did it to me at Cheek Venture, because my head was full of trying to organise the thing. I got lost out there and went in the wrong direction and started doing something else. Now, Norm said, where are you going? Norm shouldn't have said, where are you going? Norm should have waited until I got there and then disqualified me. But that's because Norm probably hadn't thought about, sorry to do this to you.
That's all right.
Remember,
he's last.
Yes. I get one in while I can.
That's always a good start.
But I knew that, if I had a thought, if I was, doing a trial, I think about that. I think, righto, tomorrow or the next day, someone might go the wrong way. What am I going to, yes?
Sorry, just while we're on that, if a novice and an open, obviously an open, more experienced handlers, you wouldn't give them that assistance. Would you mention something like that in a novice, say, for people that might be less experienced?
I wouldn't, because you've got to reward the person that's doing it right. So I wouldn't. I might in the encourage, I might. I don't know, but I wouldn't in the novice.
Mind you, he was pointed for it.
Yeah. Significantly, I think, by the school.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I wasn't going to win. Anyway, so I'm just saying, be prepared. So think of all those things that can happen. You've got the rules to back you up, and what action are you going to take? And don't be there, oh shit, stop the clock, and sort of, right from the start, you've got to be in control of the trial. You've got to be seen to be in control of the trial. So if you start trying to work out then what you're going to do, you're losing control, and it'll come over the top of you. You need to be prepared for anything and be seen to act promptly and decisively, and that's why I mean plan for it. Now, this is probably, a lot of you would think this is going over and above board, but this is what I do. If you are familiar with the course, once you've been asked to judge at it, sketch the course and develop your plan. Now, I know most people wouldn't do that. I do. I can remember, was that a championship of some description at Bluesdale, was it the Australian? Or, yeah. And I had to fly to London, and I was sitting in this, I don't sit still for any more than 15 minutes, and I was in an aeroplane for 20-something hours. So I had my diary, so in the back page of the diary, while I'm sitting in the aeroplane going to London, I drew the Lucendale course, and I worked out where the sheep were going to go, and I pretty much done the whole plan on the aeroplane going to London, so I wrote it down. But I would encourage you to do that if you are aware of the course that you're going to be judging at. Be prepared to change it once you get there, by all means, but at least put some thought into it. Your plan will vary considerably depending on the class of the trial. So if you've been asked to judge and encourage, well, this is my opinion, I just make, if it's an encouraged trial I'm judging, I make it positive, a positive experience for the handler, if possible. Try and make it enjoyable for them. And doable. I really like to get the encouraged handlers go home that night thinking that they got around the course. I really do that. So I'm not, it's just got to be a good experience, because we want those people to come back. If it's a novice trial, I want the dogs to be challenged because I want the best young dog to win, but I don't want the dog to get bogged down. So, because to me, that I believe that's very bad for young dogs to be bogged down somewhere. So I might even say something to the handlers if he's bogged down to move it on for the dog's sake. If it's an open or a championship trial, well, I think that's got to be a true test of genetics, training and handling. So it's the full, there's no gimmies there. Be well rest, plenty of sleep, no hangover. Dress neatly and be well presented. I think once again that comes down to you being in control of the trial. I don't know why it is, but if people are well presented and neat, it somehow instills a bit of respect. I don't know why, but I was thinking about when I was putting this together and planning this. If you looked out on the tarmac on the A380 Airbus or whatever you're about to get on and you've seen the pilot trudging along in his tracky dacks and his thongs, how would you feel as opposed to that same person spruced up with his lapels and his white shirt and his cap on? It's just, it really does have an impact, so I think that's important as well. And be prepared for any weather event, because when you get there, you've got to be fully focused on your task. So you don't want to be worrying about you're cold, you're wet, you're hot, you're getting sunburn, you're getting chafed lips. Be prepared for all that. So you're a bit like a test cricket umpire. You've got everything. Bring everything. So that you,
Hamilton.
yes. Yeah. And arrive early. Get there early. So that's, to me, that's everything you do beforehand. That's planning. So over the page there.